You want to know what genuinely bothers me? Watching people dump money into meme coins in trendy stocks while they've got consumer debt eating 24% of their paycheck every month. It's like watching someone try to fill a swimming pool while the drain's wide open. You might see the water level move a bit, but you're fighting a losing battle from the start. Look, I'm Devi, and I've spent more hours than I'd like to admit studying how money actually works versus how people think it works. And if you're here because you want to understand the actual sequence for deploying your money, instead of just copying whatever's trending on social media, you're in the right place. Make sure you subscribe and hit that like button if this ends up saving you from some genuinely expensive mistakes down the road. Here's what's wild. Recent Federal Reserve data shows that close to 40% of Americans couldn't cover an unexpected $400 expense without borrowing or selling something. $400. That's one blown tire, one emergency vet visit, one minor car issue. Meanwhile, those same people are DMing me asking whether they should be trading options or which AI stock is about to explode. The disconnect is staggering. The truth? There's a hierarchy to investing that most people completely invert. They start at the top of the priority ladder when they should be starting at the bottom, and that inversion costs them, not just an opportunity cost, but an actual wealth destruction. They're spending energy climbing a ladder that's leaning against the wrong wall. Today, I'm breaking down the exact priority sequence you should follow when allocating your money. Not the exciting stuff everyone wants to talk about, but the framework that actually builds durable wealth over time. And some of this is going to feel counterintuitive, especially the part about why certain tax-advantaged accounts matter more than you think, and why the order you fund them in actually makes a massive difference to your bottom line decades from now. But before we get into specific steps, let me explain why sequence matters at all. Think about constructing anything complex. Doesn't matter what. You wouldn't install the roof before pouring the foundation. You wouldn't wire the electricity before framing the walls. There's an order of operations that exists for a reason. Financial construction works the same way. When you get the sequence wrong, you create structural weaknesses. You're putting energy and resources into areas that can't support the weight you're asking them to carry. The opportunity cost is real. Every month you carry high-interest debt is a month that debt compounds against you faster than your investments are likely to compound for you. Every month you skip your employer's contribution match is compensation you earned but never claimed. Every month you fund a taxable account before maxing tax-advantaged space is money you're sharing with the IRS that you didn't have to share. The foundation of this entire system is what I call operational liquidity. Most people think of this as an emergency fund, but that framing misses the point. This isn't just about emergencies. It's about staying in control when something unexpected happens. When you don't have accessible cash and something breaks, you're forced into reactive mode. You don't get to choose the best solution. You take whatever option is immediately available, and that usually means debt. Expensive, short-term debt that undermines everything else you're trying to build. Operational liquidity isn't just a financial buffer, it's a decision-making buffer. When your laptop dies or your car needs repairs, having cash means you fix the problem and move on. Not having it means one issue cascades into months of financial stress. People always ask how much they need. The standard advice is 3 to 6 months of expenses, but that range is so wide it's almost useless. The better way to think about it is proportionality. Stable income and predictable expenses, you can operate closer to 3 months. Variable income or uncertainty, you need more. Here's the practical approach. Start with $1,500. That covers most small emergencies and immediately reduces stress. Then build toward 1 month of living expenses, and only after that push toward 3 months. Breaking it into stages makes it achievable instead of overwhelming. Research from the Financial Health Network shows that even modest savings, around $2,500, dramatically improves people's sense of financial control, not because it solves every problem, but because it changes how problems feel. You stop living in constant reaction mode, and that mental shift matters more than most people realize. Once you've built basic operational liquidity, the next step is eliminating what I call structural drains. These are obligations that compound against you faster than investments can realistically compound for you. High-interest consumer debt is the biggest offender. Credit cards are the clearest example. With average rates around 24%, this debt grows faster than the long-term stock market. Trying to invest while carrying that kind of interest is like trying to run uphill while someone's pulling you backward. You can move, but you're fighting physics. The math is simple. Paying off debt at 24% is a guaranteed 24% return. There is no investment that offers that kind of return with zero risk. Every dollar you put toward high-interest debt beats almost every investing strategy people obsess over online. For example, a $6,500 balance at 24% APR with minimum payments can take nearly a decade to eliminate and cost over $5,000 in interest alone. That's money that could have been building wealth instead of enriching a bank. The strategy is straightforward. List your debts by interest rate. Pay the minimums on everything, then direct every extra dollar to the highest interest balance until it's gone. That's the avalanche method, mathematically optimal. Some people prefer the snowball method for motivation, and that's fine. What matters is consistency, not perfection. Now, here's where the sequence gets interesting. There's one major exception to the eliminate expensive debt before investing rule, and this exception is important enough that it actually jumps ahead in the priority order. If your employer offers matching contributions to a retirement account, you capture that match even before you finish paying off consumer debt. This might sound backwards. Why would you invest while carrying 24% debt? Because the employer match is providing an instant return that typically exceeds even that debt rate. A 50% match on your contributions is a 50% immediate return. A dollar-for-dollar match is a 100% immediate return. Even with expensive debt, getting that match usually makes mathematical sense. Here's how this works. Say your employer matches 50 cents per dollar you contribute, up to 5% of your salary. If you're earning $58,000 yearly, contributing 5% means $2,900 annually. Your employer adds $1,450. That's a 50% instant return before your investments earn anything. Combined with investment growth over time, this blows away the returns you'd get from paying debt slightly faster. The strategy here is precise. Contribute exactly enough to capture the full match, then redirect all remaining available money toward eliminating high-interest debt. Once that debt is gone, you circle back and increase retirement contributions. You're not choosing between the match and debt payoff. You're sequencing them optimally. After you've captured the employer match and eliminated structural drains, you move to the next rung. Personal retirement accounts, specifically IRAs. For 2026, the contribution limit is $7,000 if you're under 50, $8,000 if you're 50 or older. This is where you start building wealth that's fully under your control, not dependent on staying at a specific employer. The choice between traditional and Roth IRAs comes down to when you want to pay taxes. Traditional IRAs give you a tax deduction now, but you pay taxes when you withdraw in retirement. Roth IRAs require paying taxes now, but all withdrawals in retirement are tax-free.
Both the principal and all growth come out tax-free. Here's the decision framework. If you're early in your career, probably in a lower tax bracket now than you'll be in peak earning years, Roth makes sense. You're paying taxes when your rate is low. If you're in your peak earning years, hitting high tax brackets, traditional makes sense. You're getting the deduction when it's most valuable. But here's the real insight. Tax rate prediction is unreliable. You don't know what tax rates will be in 30 years. You don't know exactly what your income will be in retirement. Given that uncertainty, splitting contributions between both types creates optionality. You're not betting everything on one tax scenario. You've got flexibility to draw from whichever account type makes the most sense in retirement based on the tax environment at that time.
Now, if you've got access to a health savings account, this is where things get truly interesting. HSAs are probably the most misunderstood and underutilized tool in the tax code. People think of them as medical expense accounts, which they are, but that's missing the bigger picture. HSAs are actually retirement accounts with health benefits attached. Here's what makes HSAs unique. They provide what's called triple tax advantage. You get a tax deduction for contributions, exactly like a traditional IRA. Your money grows tax-free while invested, like any retirement account, and withdrawals for qualified medical expenses are completely tax-free, even in retirement. No other account structure gives you tax benefits on the way in, while it grows, and on the way out. For 2026, you can contribute up to $4,350 if you're covering just yourself, or up to $8,750 if you're covering a family. The catch is you need to have a qualifying high-deductible health plan, which isn't right for everyone. But if you're relatively healthy, don't have ongoing medical expenses, and can handle a higher deductible, the HSA becomes incredibly powerful. Here's the advanced strategy. If you can afford it, pay current medical expenses out of pocket and let your HSA stay fully invested. Keep every receipt for qualified medical expenses because there's no time limit on reimbursing yourself from your HSA 25 years from now, completely tax-free. The numbers can be substantial. If you max out HSA contributions for 25 years and achieve a modest 6% return, you're looking at over $380,000 in tax-free medical money. Given that healthcare is one of the largest expense categories in retirement, having that covered with tax-free funds fundamentally changes your retirement math. Once you've maximized your IRA and your HSA, if you have access to one, you circle back to your employer's retirement plan and max out contributions beyond the initial match. For 2026, that's $23,500 for most people, or $31,000 if you're 50 or older. This is where serious wealth accumulation accelerates. At this point, you're really optimizing from a tax efficiency standpoint. Between your IRA, your HSA, if applicable, and your 401k, you could be sheltering north of $35,000 annually from current taxation. That's substantial money that gets to compound without the IRS taking a cut every year. Here's what most people don't realize. The average American saves roughly 7% of their income. That's typically not enough to even max out their employer match plus an IRA, let alone everything we've discussed. If you're working through this entire sequence, you're already operating at a level that most people never reach. Finally, after you've worked through all tax-advantaged options, you arrive at taxable investment accounts. This is the step most people want to start with, and it's actually the last step in the priority sequence. Taxable accounts are where you can invest in individual stocks, sector funds, real estate investment trusts, or whatever else interests you without contribution limits or withdrawal restrictions.
It's also where people make their largest mistakes because they confuse flexibility with intelligence. Having access to every investment option doesn't make you a better investor. It usually just gives you more ways to make expensive mistakes. Here's what drives me crazy. They get excited about unlimited contributions and forget about the tax drag. Every dividend gets taxed currently. Every time you sell for a profit, the IRS wants their share. Short-term gains get taxed at ordinary income rates, which could be as high as 37% for high earners. Let me show you what this costs. Assume you invest $12,000 annually for 25 years, earning 6% annually. In a tax-advantaged account, that becomes approximately $620,000. In a taxable account with the same return but paying taxes along the way, you might end up with closer to $485,000. That's $135,000 in wealth that disappeared purely due to tax drag. But here's why taxable accounts become valuable once you've maxed everything else. They offer complete liquidity and flexibility. Want to buy a house in 4 years? Retirement accounts penalize early withdrawal. Taxable accounts don't. Thinking about retiring early? Taxable accounts give you the bridge funding you need. So taxable accounts aren't bad, they're just last in the priority sequence. They're where you invest when you've already maxed your IRA, your HSA, your 401k, and you still have money to deploy. Let me summarize the complete priority ladder. Step 1. Establish operational liquidity. Get to at least $1,500, then 1 month of expenses, then build toward 3 to 6 months. Step 2. Capture your employer's retirement match if available. Step 3. Eliminate high-interest consumer debt. Anything north of 10% is destroying wealth. Step 4. Max out an IRA, $7,000 annually if you're under 50. Step 5. Max out an HSA if you have access. This is the most tax-efficient account in existence. Step 6. Return to your employer retirement plan and max it beyond the initial match. For 2026, that's up to $23,500 for most people. Step 7. And only after completing steps 1 through 6, invest in taxable accounts. This priority sequence isn't sexy, it's not exciting, but this is the framework that separates people who retire comfortably from people who work until their body gives out. This is the difference between building durable wealth and just having a hobby that occasionally makes money.
Most people invert this entire sequence. They start by trying to pick winning stocks or time the market while their foundation is non-existent. They've got debt compounding against them, no emergency fund, and they're skipping employer matches while putting money in taxable accounts. Then they wonder why they're not making progress. It's because they're climbing the ladder from the top down instead of the bottom up. The wealth-building process isn't complicated, but it requires discipline. It requires doing boring things consistently over long periods of time. Your future self, the version of you that exists 20 or 30 years from now, is going to thank you for getting the sequence right, or they're going to wish you had. The choice you're making today is which of those futures you're building toward. If this helped you understand why sequence matters, make sure you're subscribed. Drop a comment below and let me know where you are in the sequence. Are you still building liquidity? Working through debt? Already maxing retirement accounts? I'm genuinely curious where people are in their journey. And if this saved you from making expensive mistakes, that like button is right there. I'll see you in the next one.